Hi, Chris Duff over at Serious Land, vacant land funding partner. Just got off another excellent Automate to Accelerate AI coaching session with Callan and her team, and finally putting together this brand guardian marketing copywriter for our business and fielding all the project knowledge. I think this is going to be super helpful for us with less of my direct involvement needed for content production, or at least double checking, and probably will just make things more effective for posting as well. Sometimes I'll notice posts that happen that I'm not always on top of, and I'm like, wait a second, this is really not right. I think there's one like the other week, I was sharing all of the risks of that absolute auction we're doing in Tennessee, and one of the Instagram reels was saying how I just lost 90K on a land deal. And I'm like, wait a second, that is not right. That makes it look like there's the potential to lose 90K, like an absolute worst case scenario. But that is a huge difference compared to actually losing 90K. Like that makes us look way worse than the situation is, which is already not the best situation. But if people just check out the headlines, like, oh man, aren't these guys supposed to be experts within the industry? So I had to take that down and try to figure out, okay, let's make sure we're never posting anything that's inaccurate there. So there's always going to be more guardrails to figure out. That's always a risk of delegation, right? When you don't have full control over everything, there's occasionally some things slip through the cracks, and you got to fix embarrassing errors that come out there. So yeah, starting to feel a lot better about that, and also like just learning from Callan's team additional prompting, and the way that I'm handling it on the land pricer side is already like the cutting edge formats that Callan's team is doing now that I've practiced a lot more. So I'm even more reassured that we're heading in the right direction with land pricer to really nail down the pricing analysis with LLM models. Just still requires a ton more work and constant iteration to sort that out. Because if you just trust the AI, it doesn't necessarily help you get better results. Like, we need our back end knowledge for what we actually want to be found in certain images, so that it's not just giving us the wrong type of responses and we're just mispricing things anyway. So you still need the inherent knowledge before you start prompting with AI. But also today, I just wanted to go over a few key updates regarding that Louisiana subdivide deal. Again, catching some of you guys up, new listeners. We have near $500,000 value add, 3-child parcel subdivide of roughly 10 acres each in central Louisiana. Beautiful piece of land, and currently we are in the actual development process. So we're trying to just turnkey home sites, beautiful driveways, everything ready for an end buyer outside of installing an actual housing foundation. They have electricity and water at the street. They would just have to do a septic. But a lot of this, one of the lots is a flag lot too. We even got lucky where the parish approved our development project like a month earlier. And so, we anticipated getting these parcels live on the market by end of May. Now that seems like best case scenario. It's probably going to be closer to another month. It's because the development cycles, they just take a long time. We even have a team that's known for working fast, but there was just a lot of trees that needed to be cleared out. It's rainy season. I mean, it's Louisiana, right? Humid, wet. They've had a number of rainouts where they just couldn't do any work, and these guys are even working over weekends. Whenever there's an opportunity to be out there, they are. They've had to adjust some plans depending on how the terrain kind of settles out as they're clearing. That's why it's such a huge risk within development, especially doing out-of-state development where you're not managing the boots on the ground. People talk about this all the time. It's like, okay, yeah, even if you find some contractors, a ton of cost overruns or timing can always be an issue. Very fortunately, we have an outstanding realtor, one of the best, if not the best, in the region. And he's out there every day, every other day, checking in on progress, making sure that we are, staying within our budgetary range because, yeah, inevitably now there's like another $10,000 or so that we're likely going to have to pay on top of the initial $100,000 quote, which was already cheaper than we expected. We were thinking close to like 125 total, so still going to be a bit cheaper. But on the flag lot, for instance, they kind of found out, hey, we might need more dirt to really solidify the kind of long-term durability of the driveway, deeper into the home site. And so, they're either going to have to hope there's enough dirt that they pull out of the other two child parcels that they can just backfill some of those areas they need within the flag lot, or they're going to have to bring in, two truckfuls of dirt to get that piece done within the flag lot driveway clearing, which is going to cost $8,000 by itself. So we're still hopeful for the latter, where that won't need to be done, but we probably won't know until all the rest of the clearing is done, probably by like mid next week. We're already half week behind. The whole project was supposed to be done end of last week, but again, we've had a number of rainout days that we've had to account for. And then also on one of the child parcels, the realtor being out there, again, very fortunate. These guys, they really have a good eye for, okay, what would a end buyer really look for? Like, how do we really design these home sites appropriately? Like, hey, let's carve out a bit more space here. It's just going to be a bit more beautiful. I have to go back to the contractor and it's like, okay, we can do this. It's going to take another day or two potentially to work on it. It's going to cost another $2,000 or $3,000 to work on it. And so then we had to get approval from me for that. And I'm like, okay, if it's, nominal, it's going to make it more appealing for a buyer. Fine. Let's approve that. But, this is just to give you an example of how, like, these possible cost overruns can happen, or if you don't have an active site manager, how quickly things can just get off the rails, or you're not quite making the right choices when you're not seeing the actual project being done. Because, it's one thing, as I'm learning, like, to envision what we want to do on a piece of raw land. Once you actually get down to clearing things out, the terrain starts to shape itself. You're like, okay, we actually need to adjust some of these plans a bit more, or we had to spend a little bit more money on getting the surveyor to come back out and lay down additional stakes because it was just unclear where the property boundaries were. So, that delayed things a little bit as well. So it's just been a little bit of back and forth here and there during this process. All told, we're still expecting to be right at that initial budget that was quoted, but we still don't know the timeline until the rest of the clearing is done. I wanted, like, hey, can we get like a ballpark estimate? Is this going to take, 2 or 3 weeks to lay down all the gravel and so forth to complete the value add here? But I guess, on the developer side, or I mean the contractor side, they're like, hey, we have, like, the wheel measurements, that we'll use for surveys or whatever. Like, we can get exact measurements, so I know precisely how much is needed once everything is cleared, and then we can get that final hard price on it. But, very likely it will be what we initially quoted. So, we're holding to the word for that. The realtor working with us has been very good about staying on top of this and ensuring there's no funny business from that side too. And he's taken a huge gamble on us, right? Because we haven't listed these properties. They're brokerage. They can't officially sign a listing agreement until we're ready to go sell. I mean, I guess we could. We have the ownership, but he hasn't asked for it. But he's done so much work, is out there all day, and hasn't gotten paid a dime for it yet either. And we haven't even signed an official listing agreement. But it's handshake from that. I mean, not like we would ever reconsider, but it's also nice to have somebody who's going out of their way and trusting an out-of-state operator and owner as well too. So that's something I wanted to throw in and mention, where trust has to go both ways sometimes like that. And also for the flag lot, interestingly, just the way the lie of the land worked out once they were actually starting to clear, they're like, okay, this is going to cost way more if we just have the entrance to the driveway following the precise entrance area to the flag lot. So to be more cost effective, we actually need to intersect a bit over the middle child parcel for the flag lot's entrance. And so now we're going to have to build in a deeded easement to the flag lot to account for this. It really doesn't affect the middle child parcel. It's still going to be very private, but, effectively we're going to have to, still add in a different easement that wasn't initially the plan, but we thought, hey, this is going to save us, maybe like 20 grand or something from not having to drag in more dirt by just, adjusting where the driveway is going. Moral of the story through all of this is that, some things are just messier in the background than you might imagine. Like, I thought that the parish approval process was going to be the hairiest part of, or potentially hairiest part of this entire project, but the development side, it's, near daily check-ins and just unexpected things are just coming up, which is quickly showing me like, okay, yeah, there's once you're actually like moving dirt around, it's just, usually not going to be your ideal case scenario from what you initially expected. But I did see some pictures that, confirm progress, and I really like their approach to it. Like, it's just, really beautiful setups. The broker keeps telling me, hey, that this is some of the best land in the area. And, even though I haven't seen it personally, like just seeing the photos and the way they're designing the driveways to more, their goal was to more naturally follow the terrain in terms of like weaving between trees naturally there, instead of just doing, straight cut through to the back wherever the home site was going to be. It follows the terrain nicer, and it has a more beautiful kind of aura to it, and just, kind of like, a certain serene feeling of, just going through some, I don't know, some really beautiful woods. So I know I'm kind of losing my words there, but it's you just have to take my word for it. It's like, okay, I really see the curb appeal and potential appeal for a buyer, and it's like, this is going to add so much more value compared to if we just try to sell the raw land here. Like, we're really doing a lot of work on this property, so I'm feeling even more favorable about that, and nice to kind of see it come into fruition here. But this has definitely been a crash course with real development here. I know it's, a couple a few child parcels and some larger acreage, but it's been kind of trial by fire, a lot of money involved here, and giving us a taste of what it's like to actually be a developer, let alone out-of-state developer too. You're really having to trust a lot of other parties involved. So I will let you all know how this continues to go. So far, so good. We'll see when things actually hit the market here, but we are moving along fast as we can, and hopefully this helps with your own journey in land. If you're looking for any funding, seriousland.capital, zero cost review of your land deals at Land Daily Diligence Facebook group. We've got a ton more member requests lately. It's been another spike of membership. Excited to see that. And landpricer.ai, which I just mentioned earlier in this podcast. Subscribe and share. Again, unconference, there's less than 10 spots available. August 7th through 9th. Use my last name, Duff, for $200 off your ticket. Unconference.com. Hope to see you there. Take care. Bye.